Now that we've gone over the basics of capturing sensor data, let's go through the process of viewing the files we've captured and labeling the data so that we can build our machine learning models. First thing you'll need to do is to switch to the Label Explorer mode. Within the Label Explorer mode, on the left side is the Project Explorer. If you click on Project Explorer, it will show you all of the capture files that you have captured. When you're capturing files, the name is saved as the name of the event along with the timestamp. Let's click on one of these. So I'll select Blade Fault. Here's the data for blade fault that we've collected. You'll notice there are two graphs here. There's a graph for accelerometer data and a graph for gyroscope data. You can update what values are displayed on the track by clicking on the menu bar here and saying Update Columns. For this, I'm going to remove accelerometer Z and say Done. Now you can see this graph is only showing accelerometer X and accelerometer Y. We can also remove tracks or add new tracks. So I can add accelerometer Z on its own track. It will be updated below. This allows you to easily look and view and explore your data. Now I'm going to zoom in on this portion of the data by scrolling the mouse wheel. I can move along the track by clicking in the center here and dragging. I can expand as well. Since we've already set up the segment labels for our project, I'm going to show you now how to add a segment event to the data. So typically when you're recording, you want the report. The capture file will have more information than just the events you're interested in. I'll clear this file here and save, so that we can label a new segment. In order to label a segment, right-click on the graph. Now this will put a start and end marker that denotes the start and end of the segment. You can drag both of these to the label region of interest. And then I can update what this is, which is a blade fault. And hit Save, which updates the cloud project as well. Now when I go to build my model and I query for data that is blade fault, the data that's labeled here will show up and I can use it to build a model. You can have many different types of sessions. So right here, we are using our manual session. I click Add. I can also add a new session. We've just shown how to label continuous events using manual segments. Now let's look at labeling discrete events using an auto segmenter. Let's start by using the ChillCat Gesture Double Twist project. I'll just resize this window so it's a little bit easier to see. I open up the project explored. Look and see what we have. So this is a project that adds several gestures where the user is wearing a watch on their wrist and doing gesture either C, E, or S. Let's click and look at one of these. Now we're going to look at the Segment Builder mode. So click on this, and then click on Segment Builder to switch modes. And here what we've done is actually tell the computer, these are the events that I want to find. And by doing that, we're labeling the events of interest. You can label the events by right-clicking and it draws a boundary box. You can also delete segments, so I can right-click here and it will draw a boundary box. I put it around the event that I'm interested in labeling and then click Save. What we've done here is tell the model, these are the events that I'd like you to find, and it's going to try to find a segmenter that is able to wrap these events. At this point, the model isn't looking to see what is inside the segment and identify that, but only to identify the start and end of the events of interest. So I'm going to click Find Best Segmenter, and the computer is going to go through many iterations of different segmenters and try to optimize segmentation algorithm so that it is able to find an algorithm that will detect these events on the device. The goal here is that as streaming data comes in, we have a higher chance of identifying correctly if we can identify the starts and ends of the event, and then look at what is in the segment to match it up to one of our events, versus continuously running a classification algorithm without knowing the start and end of the event. So let's come back with an algorithm name and give it a name Segment Builder 2. We can rename this to whatever we'd like. It's identified this is the algorithm it wants to use, and then it's identified these parameters as parameters that are optimal for defining these segments. So we can hit Done, and it's going to save the segment finder, which you can see here. And then now I'm back in Label Explorer mode, and I want to use this segmenter that's been created to actually detect the segments. So I can hit Detect Segments, and it's going to run through this file and tell me the segments that it finds. You can see it comes back and the segmenter actually does a pretty good job of labeling these events of interest. So I can come here and say, Label Multiple Sequences, right-click, and drag, and I can say, these are all events C. Now the segmenter sometimes comes back and finds events that aren't actually events that we're interested in. Had it done that, one way we handle that is by labeling it noise. And when we label it noise, we can tell our model that sometimes the segmenter is going to come back with data that is not one of the classes we're interested in, and you should throw that out. Now for a segment builder, we only label data from a single file. There's not a single type of event. Sometimes when you do this, you'll find that while it's great at capturing that single event that you labeled, some of the other events that you're trying to find don't exactly get captured that well. So let's try our segmenter on a different file. It actually did pretty great here, but had it not, one way to enable yourself to create a better segmenter is to switch modes and go back to Segment Builder mode. Now we've already labeled this file here, but if we had run E and hadn't gotten great results for that, what we can do is come here and label these events for this file as well. Save this, save here, and click Find Best Segmenter. Now this is going to use the labels from the first file and this file to come back. We'll name this segment Finder 2. And now I can come down here and see Sessions. In Sessions, you'll see Manual with the M. This means these are manually labeled segments, and the A means this is an auto segmenter, which is an algorithm that identifies segments. Now when I hit the Set Text Segments with their new segmenter, it'll use this new algorithm and come back and label the events. You can see this one does pretty good. And so again, we come here, click Label Multiple Segments, and then this is for E.